Good afternoon everybody, my name is Tony Callahan and I'm here today to talk to you about my invention, which is called the Hotbin Composter, and we're going to give you a little introduction to the story and then show you how it works, and then hopefully you'll find the features and benefits fantastic. So by way of background, my composting experience is probably very familiar to a lot of you. I started off with a pallet frame compost bin, filled that up during the first year, started to overflow, got myself one of these little plastic Dalek cones, filled that up in the second year, that started to overflow. And I got to the stage where I just had too much waste and not enough space. So what I did is I went online, I was looking for a compost bin to buy and actually improve things. And all I wanted to do was find a compost bin where the customers were saying this is fantastic, it really works, and I couldn't find that. So what I started to do is I started to research how composting worked, and the more I researched, the more I found that pretty much every compost bin I looked at had something that was going to prevent it to work. So I got more into the technology and I started to research things like how industrial composters work, and eventually I decided to build my own bin and think about things like food waste. And once we got to that stage, we then realised that if we could solve it for me, I could solve it for other people, and that's where we thought about applying for the patent and actually going into a commercial production. So the core idea with the hot bin is we want to compost more things, we want to compost faster, and what we want to end up with is great compost coming out. In terms of what the product's made out of, it's made out of a material called expanded polypropylene, and that's made out of little bubbles of plastic which are filled with air. And because of the way it's manufactured together, what we end up with is a highly insulated compost bin. So if I just open this up for the camera, you'll see in here we've got a 50mm wall, and it's really solid and robust. This material is actually the same thing you use in your car bumpers to give it shock absorbency. It's very resilient. Okay, so the broad idea is we've got an insulated chimney, and what happens is as the bacteria work inside here to create the heat will rise, and as the heat rises it pulls cold air in through this panel here. It will rise all the way up to the top, and eventually it comes out through this panel here. And by controlling the valve, what we can actually do is control the temperature inside. So typically we'll be aiming for our compost to be running between 40 and 60 degrees centigrade. And to give you a sort of a comparison of how hot that is, most people will shower at about 40 degrees centigrade, and 60 degrees is about the temperature of your radiator or your hot water, so it's very, very hot. Okay, so we're just going to talk you through how easy it is to operate the Hotbin compost bin on a daily basis, and then walk you back through to how to actually set it up. So we'll just open up. You see here we've got a bin, nice easy open lid that you can put both hands through to put things in. And what you can see today is we're running at around about 45 degrees centigrade, so it's reasonably hot. We'll go all the way up to 60 depending on what you get in here. You can see we've got about 3/4 full, we've got waste in here, and what we want to do is just show you how easy it is. So, grab your bucket of waste, this happens to be grass, it could be your food waste, tip it in, spread in a few bits of call our wood chip. Now the wood chip isn't necessary with all things, but when you're doing food waste tends to sort of compress into a slimy mush, and that's when you start to get the anaerobic odour. So the idea with this wood chip is it just creates a little structure so the air can flow through it, and that'll mean that you don't end up with any of the nasty odours. So it really is as simple as tip it in, a bit of wood chip, put the lid back down, walk away, come back in a few days time and fill it back up again. And what we want to show you now is how to set it up and get it going first time. So we've already looked at how easy it is to use on a weekly basis. It's just about the setup. And what we do advise you is to take a little bit of time with this step, because this is the fundamental part. If you get this bit right, everything else is easy. So basically what we need to do is we need to fill it up to about the height of the base to actually give enough material, critical mass for the bacteria to get going. So in the base layer, we call it the base layer, you can put a little bit of old compost, grass cuttings, your kitchen peelings, anything that you'd normally put in a compost bin. Try and get it filled up to this nearly halfway level first off, and then once you've got that, what you find is after about a week it'll start to heat up. Okay, so in winter we need to give the bacteria a little bit of help to warm them up and get them going. So what we do very, very simply is we fill this bottle with boiling water, plunge it into the compost, put the compost over the top. It basically acts like a thermos flask, so the heat flows out, gives the bacteria enough heat and energy to get themselves going during winter. They will then build up the heat and keep it going. It's a very, very simple trick. The only thing to remember about it is you need plenty of food that's easy for them to digest. So things like food waste, kitchen peelings, bits and pieces like that, so they can get going quickly. As long as you've got that in there, the bin will heat up over winter. The lowest temperature we've ever restarted a hot bin from is minus 15 degrees centigrade, and it took about 72 hours to get back up and running. What I just want to talk you through now is what type of compost we get out, how easy it is to get out, and how we put the panel back on. So basically just give the panel, pop it out, and if you have a look in here, you've got a nice mass of compost. It's not too wet, it's not too dry, it's formulated quite well. Obviously there's a few sticks that might have to go back through. But the general idea is just grab a rake or a trowel, plunge it in, pull it out, put it into your bucket, take it away. And then when we finish that, we just need to just check around the edges here, just make sure we clean up the edges before we push the door back on. And obviously any waste in the corners here is going to stop the door feeding back in properly. But give it a good old push in, give it a good old bag on, and then you're set to go again. So nice and easy. You'll be taking out your compost probably about 3 or 4 times a year, depending on how much you're putting in there. The other good thing about the hot bin is we'll be composting waste all year round, so we won't have to stop our food waste composting in winter because it's too cold, because this is going to keep it nice and hot. Okay, so we just want to talk you through the bits and pieces that come in a composting hot bin to make it a little bit easier. So the first thing is a long stem thermometer, which you can basically just put down into the centre of the waste, and that'll give you a nice temperature reading in the centre of the heap. The one on the lid is fantastic for once you've got going, but this one's nice and neat and tidy to get you started. The second thing we get is this bag of wood chip, nice big bag, that'll keep you going for about a year. And the idea is just to give you an idea of what we use and what we put in. Longer term, we expect most of our customers to make their own through shredding or from buying it from the garden centre. The other item is the raking stick, and this is great for pushing down the side and pulling across. Nice and easy just to move the top surface around, mix the new waste with the existing compost, give the bacteria a great start. And we've already talked about the winter kickstart bottle and the use of the boiling water. So those little things will just help you get going, and just little bits and pieces to keep the whole hot bin composting process on top forward.